For millions of Americans, the image of a beautiful blonde woman twitching her nose to create magical outcomes was a delightful fixture on their television screens. Elizabeth Montgomery captivated the world with her portrayal of Samantha Stevens in Bewitched, but her real life remained elusive to many. Behind the scenes, Elizabeth's story was layered and, at times, profoundly painful. 3 decades after her death from colon cancer in 1995, now her children finally opened up about their mother's life, confirming many of the rumors that swirled around her during her career and after her passing. They speak now not only to set the record straight but also to honor the woman they knew as both a star and a deeply complex mother. This video walks through the journey of Elizabeth's life, revealing the heartache, mystery, advocacy and personal torment behind her enchanting smile. Elizabeth Montgomery was born on April 15, 1933, in Los Angeles, California, into one of Hollywood's most prominent families. Her father, Robert Montgomery, was a successful actor and director known for his roles in films like Here Comes Mr. Jordan and his political commentary. Her mother, Elizabeth Bryan Allen, was a Broadway actress with Southern charm and rigid Victorian discipline. Growing up in a household surrounded by fame, Elizabeth witnessed both the glamour and the brutal expectations of the entertainment industry. Her father's influence was powerful. He was both mentor and critic, helping her develop her talents while also instilling an intense perfectionism that would shape much of her adult life. She studied at the Spence School in New York City and later at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Even in her early 20s, Elizabeth exuded grace and emotional depth, but her famous last name also led to immense pressure to succeed and uphold the Montgomery legacy. Elizabeth made her television debut on her father's show, Robert Montgomery Presents, in 1951. While her family name opened doors, it was her talent that earned her roles in projects like The Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Studio One. She received critical acclaim for her work in the television film The Untouchables and the movie Johnny Cool. Her performances often stood out for their raw emotional intensity, even in small or supporting roles. Still, the early 1960s weren't easy. Typecasting and a lack of meaty roles for women meant she was often passed over. Elizabeth struggled with her identity. Was she a serious actress or just another pretty face trying to break away from her father's shadow? In 1964, everything changed. Elizabeth was cast as the lead in Bewitched, a sitcom created by Sol Sachs and produced by her then-husband William Asher. As Samantha Stevens, she played a suburban housewife who just happened to be a witch, and America fell in love with her. Bewitched became one of the top-rated television shows of the decade. Elizabeth's performance was nuanced, balancing comedy with strength. She refused to play Samantha as a ditzy woman. Instead, she made her clever, kind, and modern. Behind the success, however, was immense stress. Elizabeth was the show's linchpin, and the pressure to maintain ratings, manage relationships with network executives, and preserve the show's quality began taking a toll on her personal life. While William Asher was the director and producer of Bewitched, Elizabeth increasingly exerted creative control. She was deeply involved in storylines and casting decisions, even clashing with the network when they resisted social or political elements in the script. There were long-standing rumors about tension on set, particularly between Elizabeth and actor Dick York, who played her husband Darren until health issues forced him to leave. His replacement, Dick Sargent, was a longtime friend of Elizabeth's and reportedly a stabilizing presence. But even with a more agreeable co-star, Elizabeth struggled with exhaustion and emotional burnout. She continued out of obligation to the fans and her contractual obligations but longed to escape the magical cage of Samantha. After Bewitched ended in 1972, Elizabeth sought roles that showcased her depth as a dramatic actress. She appeared in TV movies like The Legend of Lizzie Borden, 1975, A Case of Rape, 1974, and Amos, 1985, each tackling heavy topics like abuse, mental illness, and justice. These performances earned her critical praise and Emmy nominations, proving she was more than just a sitcom star. Still, the industry often struggled to separate Elizabeth from Samantha, limiting her opportunities despite her clear range. Many didn't know she had to fight to get these roles. She personally advocated for stories with deeper meaning, especially those highlighting women's struggles, legal injustice, and personal trauma. Elizabeth Montgomery's personal life was just as compelling as her professional career. She was married 4 times, and each relationship left a profound impact on her. Her first marriage was to businessman Frederick Gallatin Cammon in 1954. It lasted less than a year, as Elizabeth quickly realized she wasn't suited for a traditional domestic life without a creative outlet. In 1956, she married actor Gig Young, a man known for his charm and for his demons. Young's battle with alcoholism, mental instability, and abusive behavior turned the marriage toxic. Elizabeth endured emotional distress and long periods of estrangement before they divorced in 1963. Her third and most prominent marriage was to producer/director William Asher, whom she married that same year. Together, they built Bewitched and had 3 children, William, Robert, and Rebecca. However, their professional partnership became strained as their marriage deteriorated. Rumors swirled that Elizabeth was having an affair with actor Richard Michaels, a director on Bewitched. The rumors, later confirmed by her children, contributed to the end of her marriage to Asher in 1973. Her final partner, actor Robert Foxworth, was the love of her later life. Though they didn't marry until 1993, they had been together since the mid-1970s. Foxworth brought stability and companionship to Elizabeth, and according to her children, he was a calming and supportive force during her final years. William Asher and Elizabeth Montgomery were the powerhouse couple of television in the 1960s. Their collaboration on Bewitched made them both influential figures in the entertainment industry. But behind the public image of harmony, cracks began to form. Bill Asher was known to be controlling, both professionally and personally. Though their marriage started with deep love and mutual respect, it slowly eroded under the weight of the show's demands and Asher's dominating presence. Elizabeth, ever independent and strong-willed, began to resist his influence. Their children, particularly William Asher Jr., have since spoken about the tensions they witnessed. They loved each other, but they also clashed a lot, William shared in a 2020 interview. "My mom didn't want to be boxed in, and my dad didn't always know how to deal with that." The final years of their marriage were marred by increasing distance, emotional disconnect, and Elizabeth's affair with Bewitched director Richard Michaels. That relationship, which Asher eventually discovered, ended the marriage. While it hurt the family, it also freed Elizabeth from an emotionally suffocating dynamic. Over the years, a theory emerged among fans and some cast members, the so-called Bewitched curse. It was a term used to describe the untimely deaths and troubled lives of many people associated with the series. Dick York, the original Darren, suffered from chronic back pain and became addicted to painkillers, forcing his departure from the show. His life spiraled into poverty and illness before he died in 1992. Agnes Moorehead, who played the unforgettable Endora, died of uterine cancer in 1974, just 2 years after Bewitched ended. David White, Larry Tate, and even Elizabeth herself would later succumb to cancer. Though there's no scientific basis for such a curse, the pattern was eerie. Rumors circulated that the show's frequent themes of witchcraft and the supernatural had somehow cast a shadow over its cast. Elizabeth, who was deeply spiritual but not superstitious, dismissed these ideas publicly. Privately, her children confirm, she was unnerved by how many of her colleagues died young. "She would never admit it, but I think it scared her," said Rebecca Asher. "She worried she'd be next." Elizabeth Montgomery's life was not without hidden pain, much of it stemming from emotional abuse and years of internalized pressure. Her relationship with her father, Robert Montgomery, was cold and demanding. While he nurtured her talent, he also criticized her harshly and made her feel inadequate if she failed to meet his expectations. He was emotionally distant, her son Robert Asher said. He didn't show affection easily. That affected her deeply. Elizabeth also battled anxiety and depression for years, conditions she hid from the public eye. She struggled with loneliness, especially after the end of her marriage to Asher, and relied on therapy and occasional medication to cope. She reportedly feared being seen as too emotional or unstable, which might damage her career. As a result, she wore a mask of professionalism even in her darkest times. Her children, particularly as they reached adulthood, noticed her suffering. "She was hurting, but she never wanted us to worry," William said. Elizabeth Montgomery was more than just a performer. She was a fierce advocate for social justice, long before it was fashionable in Hollywood. During the height of her fame, she campaigned for women's rights, spoke out against the Vietnam War, and supported LGBTQ+ causes, a rarity at the time. She was one of the first celebrities to speak openly in support of gay rights. Her friendship with Dick Sargent, who came out publicly in 1991, led to their joint activism for gay youth and suicide prevention. They famously served as co-grand marshals of the 1992 Los Angeles Gay Pride Parade. Elizabeth also lent her voice to documentaries on domestic abuse, women's rights, and AIDS awareness. Her children say she spent countless hours volunteering and advocating behind the scenes. She wasn't just an actress. She cared deeply about people, especially the vulnerable, Rebecca Asher recalled. That was the side of her the public didn't always see. Her activism made her a target at times. She received hate mail and was warned by studio executives to tone down her political views. But Elizabeth refused to be silenced. In an era when many women played it safe, she chose to speak up. Though Elizabeth Montgomery adored her children, William, Robert, and Rebecca Asher, she wasn't always emotionally available. Her demanding career and the pressures of fame often created a rift between her personal and maternal identities. During the height of Bewitched, Elizabeth's work schedule was relentless. Filming days stretched long, and promotional obligations consumed much of her time. While she maintained a loving household and tried to be present, the kids often felt her absence. She was always trying to balance everything, William Asher Jr. later shared. She'd come home and try to be supermom, but we knew how tired she was. After her divorce from Bill Asher, the children split time between their parents. The separation was confusing, and tensions between Elizabeth and Asher trickled down into the children's experience. At times, they felt caught in the middle. Elizabeth regretted missing parts of her children's formative years. In later life, she tried to rebuild those bonds. She attended their school plays, college events, and was present at important milestones. But, as Robert Asher admitted, some wounds never fully healed. We forgave, but the distance stayed with us. Her letters, uncovered decades later, would show how much guilt she carried, and how fiercely she loved them, despite the emotional gaps. In March 1995, Elizabeth Montgomery received a devastating diagnosis: late-stage colorectal cancer. She had experienced symptoms for months but ignored them, chalking it up to fatigue or stress. By the time she saw a specialist, the disease had spread. Elizabeth's choice not to go public with her diagnosis surprised many, but her children now confirmed that she wanted privacy and peace. She hated the idea of people watching her fade away, said Rebecca Asher. She wanted to die on her terms, without tabloids or pity. She declined aggressive treatment, opting instead for comfort care and spending time with her loved ones at home in Beverly Hills. Her partner, Robert Foxworth, stood by her side through every moment. Though weak, Elizabeth spent her final months reconnecting with her children. She shared stories, wrote letters, and even recorded private messages for each of them to be opened after her passing. "Those were some of the most honest conversations we ever had," Robert recalled. The media only learned of her illness days before her death. It shocked fans, who had no idea the beloved actress was battling a terminal illness in silence. As spring approached in 1995, Elizabeth Montgomery's condition deteriorated rapidly. She spent her final days in her bed, surrounded by close friends and family. According to her children, she faced death with grace and an almost spiritual calmness. "She wasn't afraid," said Rebecca Asher. "She was ready to let go." She spent her last energies writing handwritten notes to loved ones, including friends from the Bewitched cast and crew. She also organized her estate meticulously, ensuring her children would be taken care of and her legacy protected. Elizabeth's final hours were peaceful. On May 18, 1995, at the age of 62, she passed away quietly in her sleep, with Foxworth and her children by her side. There was no media circus, no dramatic final scene, just a dignified end for a woman who had lived on her own terms. Her funeral was private, held a few days later. Friends from all walks of life, actors, activists, and family, came to say goodbye. Tributes poured in from around the world. Hollywood had lost a legend. Her children had lost a mother. The world lost Samantha, but they also lost Elizabeth, a woman who was so much more than a witch. Elizabeth's funeral took place at the Church of the Recessional in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, a modest and beautiful setting, just as she'd requested. It was a quiet ceremony, attended by close family, a few former Bewitched co-stars, and longtime friends. Dick Sargent, who had shared the screen with her during the last 3 seasons of Bewitched, gave a moving eulogy. "She was magic," he said, "not because of special effects, but because she made people believe in kindness and strength." The Hollywood community responded with a flood of tributes. ABC aired a special retrospective on her life. Her co-stars remembered her as a generous and strong-willed woman, while fans across the country sent flowers and condolences to her family. Her children recalled the funeral as both healing and haunting. "It felt like a curtain had fallen, not just on her life but on an entire era," said William Asher Jr. Though she was cremated and her ashes scattered in the San Fernando Valley, a symbolic gravestone was placed in Forest Lawn's Memorial Garden. It reads simply, "Elizabeth Montgomery, actress, mother, activist. 1933 to 1995. Forever Bewitched." For decades, rumors swirled about Elizabeth Montgomery's private life. Was she secretly battling depression? Did she truly have a strained relationship with her father? Was her affair with Bewitched director Richard Michaels real? Why did she keep her cancer a secret? And most of all, was she truly happy? In the years following her death, her children remained mostly silent, out of respect, they said. But on the 30th anniversary of her passing in 2025, they finally spoke out. In a joint interview and accompanying documentary, William, Robert, and Rebecca Asher confirmed many of the long-standing rumors. Yes, she had struggled with mental health issues. Yes, the affair with Michaels contributed to her divorce. And yes, her relationship with her father had left deep emotional scars. But they also revealed new truths. Elizabeth had written letters to each of them in the weeks before she died, offering apologies, explanations, and wisdom. In one, she admitted she had often felt like two people, Samantha the star, and Elizabeth the human being desperately trying to be understood. She was never pretending, Rebecca said. She was trying to survive. In those final words, they found closure. In sharing them with the world, they hoped to restore Elizabeth's full humanity, not just as an icon, but as a woman who loved, hurt, healed, and endured. Among the most poignant discoveries after Elizabeth's passing were the handwritten letters she left for each of her children and her partner, Robert Foxworth. Tucked away in a private safe box and marked to be read after I'm gone, these letters revealed the deepest parts of Elizabeth's heart, ones she had often kept guarded during her life. In her letter to William Jr., she apologized for the times she was absent and expressed pride in his strength and independence. "You were always braver than I was," she wrote. "Forgive me for not always showing up the way you needed." To Robert, she confided her fears about dying young, like many of her Bewitched colleagues. "The curse scared me more than I admitted," she confessed. "But I believe love is stronger than superstition." To Rebecca, her youngest, Elizabeth poured out her maternal soul. "You saved me from becoming bitter. I saw my better self in your eyes." The letters also hinted at Elizabeth's regrets over career decisions. She wrote of turning down film roles that might have broadened her range and lamented letting herself be typecast. She also mentioned having to bury truths to protect her children, decisions that would only make sense when revealed in full. These letters, kept private until 2025, became the emotional centerpiece of the family's documentary, a raw unveiling of a mother's honesty in her final days. With her children finally opening up, several rumors long whispered through Hollywood were put to rest, some painful, others illuminating. The affair with Richard Michaels, director of Bewitched's final seasons, had been one of Hollywood's worst-kept secrets. What had once been framed as a simple flirtation was, in fact, a passionate, emotionally intense relationship that disrupted both of their families. Elizabeth's children confirmed that the affair played a direct role in the end of her marriage to Bill Asher. More surprisingly, they revealed the emotional damage inflicted by Elizabeth's father, Robert Montgomery. Although admired by the public, behind closed doors he was cold, hypercritical, and emotionally distant. "She always wanted his approval," William Jr. admitted, "but he rarely gave it." Elizabeth's lifelong perfectionism and fear of failure can be traced directly to her relationship with her father. There were also revelations about the industry's treatment of Elizabeth. Despite her fame, she was paid less than male counterparts and often dismissed when she expressed political opinions or wanted more challenging roles. Executives frequently typecast her, rejecting serious projects she advocated for, especially after Bewitched ended. "She was furious," said Robert. "But she hid it, because the public saw her as sweet, magical Samantha." These confirmations don't tarnish her image. Instead, they elevate her story, a woman battling the dual monsters of fame and invisibility, navigating both with fierce dignity. 30 years after their mother's death, Elizabeth Montgomery's children have each walked their own paths, shaped deeply by her legacy. William Asher Jr. pursued work behind the scenes, following in his father's footsteps as a producer and director. While he initially resisted a career in entertainment, he later admitted that storytelling runs in the blood. William also became an advocate for colorectal cancer awareness, sharing his mother's story at medical events and on public platforms. Robert Asher, more private than his siblings, chose a quieter life. He became a therapist, specializing in grief and family trauma, a path inspired by his mother's emotional complexity. He credits her for helping him understand the many faces of emotional pain and the need for empathy in healing. Rebecca Asher, the youngest, found success as a television director. Her credits include shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and Don't Trust the Bee, in Apartment 23. She openly honors her mother in interviews, calling her the single most inspiring person I ever knew. The siblings remain close and have taken steps to protect Elizabeth's legacy. Together, they launched the Elizabeth Montgomery Foundation, which supports women in film, LGBTQ+ advocacy, and cancer research. "This is what she would have wanted," Rebecca said. "To use her name to make the world a little better." In the years following the revelations, interest in Elizabeth Montgomery experienced a renaissance. New documentaries, retrospectives, and think pieces flooded media outlets, re-examining her life with a more nuanced lens. Far beyond Samantha Stevens, Elizabeth was now being celebrated for her courage, activism, and emotional depth. The release of Witching Hour, The Life of Elizabeth Montgomery, a 2025 documentary produced by her children, opened to critical acclaim. Featuring interviews with family, friends, and former co-stars, it showcased her as a woman who fought fiercely for justice, struggled with emotional demons, and loved more deeply than many knew. Clips of her rare political speeches and previously unseen behind-the-scenes footage from Bewitched gave the public a new appreciation for her range and resilience. Schools and film societies began incorporating her work into curriculum focused on women in media and the evolution of television. Merchandise, fan art, and memorials followed, but this time, they celebrated Elizabeth the woman, not just Samantha the witch. It was a reclaiming of identity, a way of telling the world, she was never just a character. She was a force. Elizabeth Montgomery was an icon, yes, but she was also a survivor, a mother, a lover, an activist, and ultimately, a deeply human woman. If you found this deep dive into the life of Elizabeth Montgomery moving, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video. We bring you the untold truths behind Hollywood's biggest names, their struggles, and the legacies they leave behind. Your support helps us continue uncovering these emotional and inspiring journeys. Thank you for watching.